Let's dive into how the PBCC responds to journalists and reporters that contact them for comments on allegations. Hi, I'm Cheryl Hope, a former member of the Exclusive Brethren, now rebranded the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church. The article you see above is a podcast that myself and some other former members of the PBCC did with Canada Land. Canada Land reached out to the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church for response. And inside this article are a ton of responses that we're going to go through. And I'm going to give you the real truth because these are very far from the truth. So these quotes might not be in the exact order that they show up in the article, but we're going to start with this one. The Brethren Church denies shunning occurs in their communities. They say it's up to individual families to decide if they want to communicate with members who have left, and that the church itself would never stand in the way. They did not directly answer questions about whether members are ever instructed to shun members who still live within the community. Well, I can tell you, I could line up hundreds of ex-members that would all tell you that this is completely false. This is the farthest thing from the truth. We have recordings of people being withdrawn from. That is the last stage of excommunication. And it is known, you just know in there, you do not contact people who have left. And especially people who come forward. If I was to show up on my parents' doorstep after coming forward, yeah, I would not be received very well. This one's a good one. The PBCC also denies that they have a formal hierarchy. However, their website lists Bruce Hales as the church's most senior leader. Bruce Hales is their man of God, the elect vessel, the one that talks straight to Jesus and gets information from Jesus. He is quoted that he knows the exact time of the rapture. He is not just somebody who is sitting on the front row doing nothing. The way that they set the men up in their rows is all to do with hierarchy. My dad never got to the front row. He might have after I left, but when I was in there, no. He was on the second row once and then moved back up to the third row. So yes, there is a formal hierarchy. Everyone knows about it and you know your place in there. According to the PBCC spokesperson, Merrick Grimshaw, the Plymouth Brethren are not a cult. Grimshaw confirmed that, as with other religions, Brethren members can only marry other Brethren members. Grimshaw said that members do not vote or make political donations, but they do use mobile phones, play sports, and dance. Grimshaw said that Brethren have no formal hierarchy, no centralized control, and no paid clergy. In fact, it has no employees at all. Yeah, bullshit. All lies inside there. Absolutely all lies. Yes, Brethren members can only marry other Brethren members. We know that that's true. And we know that they don't vote, but make political donations. We have hard copies of the donations the Brethren have made in many political elections. And play sports? They might play sports inside there in gym class, but when I was going to school and from recent leavers, you wouldn't sign up to go on a soccer team. You couldn't go and sign your child up to play on a baseball team or a soccer team. That's not allowed. Dancing, maybe they do dance in there, but they wouldn't go out dancing. They wouldn't be dancing with you or I. That's not allowed. Again, no formal hierarchy, no centralized control. It's all bullshit. The next one is a spokesperson for the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church, Merrick Grimshaw, denied any knowledge of the alleged sexual abuse or of the ongoing police investigation. Sexual abuse is a crime which is in no way tolerated by the church, Grimshaw wrote. If anyone has allegations of this nature, they should report them to the police. To our knowledge, no member of the church has been contacted by any law enforcement authority concerning these matters. The church encourages members to cooperate with law enforcement in all matters. Well, we know, and many of the sexual abuse victims that have come forward know that you don't report this. It is held quiet. You know to keep it quiet. And if it is brought to them, they deal with it inside there. And most of the time, they choose the perpetrator over the victim. We know of someone who just recently left where they paid for the abuser's top-notch lawyer and left her out in the dust where she had to fight for herself. So all of this is absolutely false. You know in there, if your child came to you with these kinds of allegations, you would be hushed. And in regards to them not knowing about these allegations that are going on, they know about them. They've watched the podcast. We have proof that they've watched the podcast by what they've sent back to us. And they have chose not to do anything about them. And my perpetrator, Alan Drever, I'm not the only one that has brought to their attention what has happened. So this is not being dealt with the way they are telling the public it's being dealt with. The next one, the church spokesperson says the PBCC has not been contacted by the RCMP about these allegations and that the church does not tolerate sexual abuse. Again, absolute false information. We can go back to their last split that they had inside the church was back in JT Jr.'s time. It was known as Aberdeen, when he was caught in bed with another woman and thousands of members left it because they chose to believe his innocence when it was there in black and white what really had happened. So since then, sexual abuse has become the norm in there. And that's why we started doing the podcast. We're up to podcast number 55, and there's multiple people that have come forward about their sexual abuse. Our inboxes were swamped with reports of sexual abuse. Some people won't come forward, and I get that. It's a very hard thing to do, but this is absolutely false information that yes, they do tolerate sexual abuse, and they often side with the perpetrator, especially if he's high up in the church. Yeah, the perpetrator will get the protection, not the abused victim. PBCC spokesperson Merrick Grimshaw tells us the church members' companies are under no obligation to join UBT and that they are able to do business with whomever they choose. They also tell us that the church has no legal, financial, or any other interest in its members' business. Again, absolute false. They have business seminars all the time and you are looked down on hugely and sometimes excommunicated if you choose not to join UBT. That is their universal business team. So again, even though they're coming forward and saying this, we have witnesses that this is complete false information. And by them saying that the church has no legal, financial, or any other interests in the members' business, again, if your business isn't doing well, it gets shut down. So yes, they do have a very huge interest on it. This one was one of my favorites. The Plymouth Brethren Christian Church, PBCC, with about 50,000 followers worldwide, calls itself nonpartisan and says its members do not vote. A spokesperson denies the church has any involvement with political activities, and the PBCC denies that they are centrally organized in any way. Well, as you can see in my previous post, yes, they have their hands deep into politicians. To carry on from that, from my post that I showed the video of the involvement in their Stephen Harper election. This is 2015, and this is a picture of a member of the PBCC Brethren actively involved in the Canadian election 2015, shaking Stephen Harper's hands. So again, we have this worldwide. We have accurate firsthand statements, witnesses, and accounts of them being directly involved in elections and politicians. And I just wanted to pop back on this one for a brief second and address how they are saying that the Plymouth Brethren are not a cult. And even that is a taboo word. I will go into a podcast and go over the 13 points that make the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church a cult. All of us that have left, we know and we see that it is a cult. So again, having a spokesperson come forward and give absolute false lies when we have put out so many podcasts, so many reports, and so many witnesses have come forward, it really makes them look absolutely like asses when they come forward and give out lies like this. It's absolute hypocrisy on how they can say one thing when they know their actions are completely in the other line.